In 2017, Tekken got not one but two Guinness World Records. The first one is for the longest ongoing 3D fighter, which I guess it has until there's a new Virtua Fighter. The second is for the longest running video game storyline. If that sounds questionable, it's because it is. Anyone can submit their own category to Guinness, so it seems like Bandai Namco added the extra conditions of no reboots, no long gaps between releases, and everything being told in chronological order. Just enough conditions to disqualify every other long-running series. In most cases, it would be easy to dismiss this as nothing more than cheap marketing. Guinness is more than happy to include just about anything because it helps them to pad out their books. However, this sense of pride in Tekken storytelling still comes through in the overall direction of the series, and the words of its main producer. So in this video, we want to take a more holistic view of Tekken storytelling. What is it trying to accomplish? What is it trying to convey to you? How does it do it? And where is it even going? When Tekken originally came out, its only standout feature, in terms of storytelling, was the production value. It was the first fighting game to reward you with 3D animated, pre-rendered cutscenes. In every other regard, it was still a product of its time. During the arcade era, having a story was a detriment. If you stop the action to show cutscenes or make the player read dialogue, they aren't playing. If they aren't playing, they can't lose, which means the average session is longer and your cabinet is making less money, which in turn guarantees that it will be replaced by something more profitable, like a crane game. Back then, all you had was the booklet. For Tekken 1, 2, and 3, 90% of the story was contained on these 3 pages. The rest was in short character bios and ending cutscenes, many of which were either not canon or had zero impact on characters or the main story. At this stage, it was hard to tell if Tekken truly had any narrative ambitions or plans for the future. The infamous Devil Jin didn't yet exist even as a concept. Instead, Tekken 2 and 3 clearly outlined a more mythological approach to supernatural powers, with Angel battling for Kazuya's soul and the evil spirit branding Jin after its previous host is defeated. Instead of trying to be ambitious, Tekken's story was a little more like classic Monster of the Week format, where each new entry presents you with a new brand of evil to defeat. It's not very complex, but it works just fine as a premise for a fighting game series. And it would maybe continue to work for Tekken if it didn't try to explain things that needed no explanation or try to bite off more than it can chew. Tekken 4 marks a different era of Tekken storytelling, one that is simultaneously more ambitious, but also far less coherent. It's difficult to pinpoint the main reason behind it. There are simply too many things that could happen over the course of developing and writing a video game, but almost all of these issues seem to point towards a lack of vision. The aforementioned mythological aspect of the first 3 games got shafted in favor of explaining special powers through genetics, with Heihachi even seeking to splice himself with parts of Ogre using the Devil Gene. Then Tekken 5 abandoned that and went full supernatural, since Jinpachi got turned into a demon by yet another evil spirit. Tekken 6 after it decided that instead of any meaningful development for already existing storylines, it's time to do an epic twist of turning Jin into a villain. Harada wanted that to happen for quite a long time, and on the surface it's not a terrible idea. There's a lot to explore about heroes turning into villains, and what sort of consequences it could have.
What is this? What are you doing, my son?
Succeeding you, father.
But again, it feels like this idea was simply thrown in at random, without thinking about how to execute it or what impact it would have on everything else. Instead, the poster boy of the franchise got turned into a war criminal in order to awaken an ancient evil that he, as we later learn, didn't even actually defeat. In almost any other story, a character like this would be despised, avoided, banished, or hunted down. In Tekken, everyone either forgets it, doesn't do anything, or outright forgives him. Since Jin is just such a nice guy. We made it through 7 games, over 2 decades of Tekken. And despite all the money and effort invested into the story, neither the characters nor the setting have experienced any notable development or change. There is no vision or an idea of what Tekken is about, what stories it wants to tell, until Tekken 8, sort of. Tekken 8's story is by no means perfect. It suffers from many of the same issues as the previous titles, and in some cases makes them even worse, especially when it attempts to cram as many characters into the story as possible. You could say it's a noble effort to please the fans, but those inclusions often contribute nothing to the narrative, while dragging it out and killing the pace. No, its real achievement is that we finally get something that resembles a mostly coherent story structure. In the previous game, Jin was preparing to face his father. Instead of resetting things and switching to a new plot, Tekken 8 opens with that, but Jin loses quite badly. He is shattered and broken so that he can be built back up throughout the chapters, leading to a climactic rematch at the end of the game and a finale that changes things in a way that can't be undone without pissing everyone off. Is it a great story? Looking at it critically, no, not really. There's still too many issues, weird decisions, dropped plot elements and clumsy writing, but there's an emotional core at the center of it now, and a structure that allows you to actually follow what's happening, which leads to the second point, the set pieces. It's not too controversial to say that most fighting game players do not care about the story, but I think it's more accurate to say that fighting game players don't expect nor demand layered, complex narratives. None of us watched The Raid or John Wick to hear what those movies have to say about violence or human nature. Fighting games are the same way, and Tekken 8 must have understood it to some extent. Once again, for the first time, the story serves as a vehicle to deliver more exciting action scenes, with several unique boss fights and a welcome, if severely undercooked, return of Tekken forces. However, nothing highlights this better than the final showdown. The final battle between Jin and Kazuya is one of the most beautifully crafted moments in fighting games. It's a long, roughly half an hour long fight that goes from two godlike beings battling on top of an asteroid in space to a father and son fighting for their ideals, while the music and their movesets change to reflect the history of the series. During moments like this, it's easy to forget or ignore all the lackluster moments, because what the game is putting in front of you, right here, right now, is so easy to appreciate. You can't have a dramatic climax like this in every game, but as the epilogue shows, the things are far from over. In terms of storytelling, Tekken would benefit from going back to its roots and embracing simplicity of solid action stories where good battles evil. This also means that they should stop trying to come up with contrived reasons for characters to fight each other, or insane explanations for things that they didn't think through. We can already get plenty of CPU battles in the arcade mode. Those experiences are bland and forgettable, yet the unique scenarios that can only happen in story mode are capable of becoming instantly iconic.